Oh my god, do you guys remember when that one dude uploaded when he said he was gonna upload? Yep, me either. So, what's the best $100 Xbox Pro controller? Of all the budget devices I've looked at, there are two I often recommend to people. You have the Flying Purple Penis Eater and the Wish.com Elite Series 2. All Pro controllers, no matter how good, are unreliable to some extent in one way or another. So realistically, they don't actually need to be that expensive, and these ones aren't. One of these is $100 flat and the other is $90. However, the Fusion Pro was $60 for the last year. They released it at $90, dropped it to $60, and kept it at $60 for an entire year up until 2 days before I was going to upload this goddamn video. So even though the Fusion Pro is $90 right now, it is likely to go back down to $60 or maybe even $50 at some point, but I can't actually confirm this. So I suppose there's only one more question to ask. Which one wins in a street fight? For $100 or less, each of these controllers deliver a mountain of Pro controller amenities. I mean, shit, the Gambit has more features than a fucking DJ Khaled album.
Another one.
So per usual, I'll give you guys the basic rundown of the feature list, and then we're gonna deep dive into certain features that I know you guys are interested in. So if you're looking for something specific, we got reliability, you know, thumbsticks, paddles, this, that, or the other. Be sure to check the timestamps. YouTube's pretty cool nowadays. To start us off, we have some Pro controller basics. Each of these controllers sports a set of paddles or buttons. Well, in this case, both. The Gambit has 2 button attachments. One of them has 2 buttons on it. The other one has 4 buttons. Both of the attachments are the same size, which works for the 2 button attachment, but not so much for the 4 button attachment. The Fusion, on the other hand, uses paddles instead, which of course means any one paddle can be removed, or you can remove them altogether. This is nice, but their design can lead to them degrading as time goes on. If we move further along the bottom of the controller, we come across the trigger stops, which differ drastically between the 2 controllers. The Fusion Pro has generic 3-way trigger stops, which, if I'm 100% honest, they're damn near as shallow as the company that made them. They don't really do too much trigger stopping. Meanwhile, over on Team Purple, the trigger stops are so fucking fast, I actually think they can compete with clicky triggers on a good day. The patented 5-way clutch triggers Victrix offers for the Gambit are damn near unbeatable, so I would keep a very close eye out for this specific timestamp, as it is by far the biggest competitive difference between both of these controllers. If we move back over to the Fusion Pro and flip it the fuck over, you may notice that both of the thumbsticks are of a different height. This is because both these controllers come with the industry standard of 2 extra thumbsticks. One is a tall concave stick, and the other is a dome stick. However, one of these dome sticks decided they were going to lie on their Tinder page and say they were 6 foot. You can install these thumbsticks by removing the magnetic faceplate of either controller. Both of them come with 2. And as a quick aside, you'll also have to remove the faceplate of the Gambit if you want to remove its square D-pad. The Fusion doesn't have a swappable D-pad like the Gambit does, which it's kind of funny. The Elite Series 2 clone doesn't come with a circular D-pad, and it doesn't come with software, which is going to be the final piece of the feature puzzle. I do not cover software extensively in my videos anymore. There will be a full tutorial linked in the description from someone else if you're interested. Of course, I'm talking about the Gambit and its software, which is pretty crazy. For a $100 controller, you get a piece of software that allows you to fully remap every single button on the controller, including the paddles. You get dead zone adjustments for both the triggers and the thumbsticks, 3 equalizer profiles, mic monitoring, a couple of other things as well. By contrast, if you go to the PowerA website and then go to the support section, the software might be there in another universe, because it's not there here. Instead, you get firmware.
No, they're in the truck.
Gee, thanks, PowerA. In terms of feature sets, overall, very safe to say, the Gambit curb stomps the living fuck out of the Fusion Pro 2 any day of the week very easily.
It's like, yeah, but, you know.
It was too easy.
I was gonna win.
Yeah.
The customization options are not even comparable, and the Gambit has software. On top of that, a lot of the competitive features offered by Victrix are just improvements over the ones PowerA offers, like the buttons that don't shift around and eventually fall out, and the trigger stops that are faster than Godspeed. Which leads us into our first bit of competitive performance. Before I shit on it, I'd like to say the PowerA Fusion Pro is a very formidable budget pro controller. Very, very good controller when it's working, but its trigger stops suck dick. Big meaty ones. The Fusion Pro 1 and 2, the PowerA Spectra Enhanced, the PowerA Spectra Infinity, all have the same trigger stops. They're all three-way trigger stops, and they all suck. The dead zones don't automatically adjust. There's no software to customize the dead zones in, and I will give it to them. They feel a little bit faster than normal triggers, but not by a significant amount, not by much. In contrast, the Gambit has trigger stops that are pretty short, but more importantly, the dead zones automatically adjust themselves when you adjust the trigger stops. They push the dead zones all the way out. So you just very lightly grazing the trigger activates the trigger at 100% immediately. A star 2 goddamn galaxies over could explode, and the Gambit's triggers would still somehow activate. To be honest, it's not even really a fair comparison. On a good day, like I've said, the Gambit's trigger stops could very easily rival the clicky triggers that I've tried. Clicky triggers take a little bit more force to activate than, normal triggers because, they're clicky, but the Gambit's triggers take no force at all. In fact, they're really easy to accidentally activate when you're just doing nothing. So in fairness, it was never really a competition to begin with there. The good news is, the same cannot be said for the paddles versus buttons situation. Like I stated earlier, the Gambit is a controller that offers you 4 buttons, but realistically, you can probably only use 2 of them. This is because the 4-button attachment is extremely small, so people who are looking to use 4 paddles might want to use 4 paddles, not 4 buttons, because the paddles on the Fusion Pro are far bigger, spaced apart quite nicely, and you can remove singular paddles if you don't want them there. So people who are looking for 4 buttons might be interested in the Fusion over the Gambit. The only real downside is that the Gambit's buttons have a chance to degrade as time goes on because of the way the paddles are set up. The metal paddles rest in very cheap plastic that can gradually wear down as time goes on. The paddles become looser and looser, fall out, and then it's a warranty claim. But PowerA is very generous with these, so it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it still is something I wish they would fix. They just refuse to.
Not only do they refuse to fix their paddles, but Alpine also refuses to make a single good fucking product. For those unaware, they're the ones responsible for the vast majority of thumbsticks on game controllers at this time. You know the thumbsticks, the ones that make these $200 pro controllers unusable and make these guys millions each year. So both controller sticks struggle equally with reliability.
But in terms of accuracy, the Fusion Pro feels more like a stock normal Xbox controller with a dead zone that's a little more sensitive. And the Gambit feels kind of like a normal Xbox controller, but in my opinion, a little less accurate sometimes. But the biggest distinction between the thumbsticks of both controllers are the faceplates, because the Fusion feels like a normal thumbstick, because the faceplate has some normal ass plastic for the anti-friction rings. But in my opinion, if you're gonna make anti-friction rings, they should feel like the Gambit. So stay with me here. The purple penis eating faceplate is made out of rubber. And because the rubber feels the way it does, the thumbsticks glide around the rubber and feel like they don't really have a boundary. And it's something you can only get when you have the Gambit. It almost feels like, I don't know how to describe it.
I am coming.
And just to quickly finish off, I know people probably aren't that interested in this. I know someone will be. D-pads. If your D-pad shaped like this, it's kind of gay, not gonna lie. These ones though, I like that. That's cool. I'm not 100% sure if this applies to the Gambit, but I know with the Elite Series 2, most people like the circular D-pad. That could be wrong here, but it does feel pretty nice. I mean, I play Injustice with it, and it feels pretty solid. I feel like for the money, performance is something the Gambit specifically tries to excel at. The Fusion Pro kind of feels like it's just a lazy version of the Elite Series 2, while the Gambit feels like it's a much more rounded, focused controller. In either case, they both offer a shit ton of features for a price that is not that unrealistic, and not only does the Gambit have software, but both of them have pretty decent warranties. So in terms of raw performance, the Gambit is likely going to take that win as well. But that is only half the story in my opinion. A device is only good if it works. A while back, I asked my subscribers to detail their experience with the PowerA Fusion Pro 1 and 2, as well as the Victrix Gambit. Also keep in mind, I've also done quite a bit of research from retailer reviews, YouTube reviews. I've even looked at the comments in those YouTubes. Fucking idiot. Just, I've done a decent bit of research, okay? When it comes to reliability, I'm always doing a decent bit of research. Here's what I found. In the survey I did, there were about 90 replies. Many of them had one or more issue, and I did my best to categorize and detail each and every issue. Some of them had no complaints at all and absolutely loved their device, so I wrote those down too. As expected, it's a bit wonky because if a keyboard performed like this, it wouldn't have a single fucking customer. I guarantee that shit. Anyways, the main issues people noted were PowerA's paddles suck, which we already talked about. PowerA's triggers also suck on occasion. There were a few sucky thumbsticks. The Gambit, this Thanos stick, it received multiple complaints about its thumbsticks, its bumpers. The 4-button option has a little dick. Listen, man. Both these controllers suck. These controllers are no better than the Astro C40 or the Elite Series 2. At least when it comes to reliability. The warranty between these controllers is 1 and 2 years respectively. So please, 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 please keep that in mind, as it may one day come in handy. But at the end of the day, at the end of this day, I think both these controllers are unpredictable enough for me to call it even. So as you guys heard me say in the intro, this video actually was going to be uploaded a couple of days ago, but PowerA decided to change the price of the Fusion Pro 2. Now, I've had a differing opinion on the Fusion Pro as time has gone on. Nowadays, I think with the competition that the Fusion Pro has, it's kind of hard to sell it at its advertised MSRP. This video entirely revolved around the fact that the Fusion Pro is a slightly less well-rounded controller than the Victrix Gambit. However, it's also 40% cheaper, so it makes sense financially. But when they're the same price, even if the fucking Victrix Gambit was 60 bucks and the Fusion Pro was 50, it still wouldn't make any sense to buy the Fusion, unless you were specifically looking for a budget 4-paddle controller. That's it. To further solidify my point before I go, I'm going to show you guys the very beginning of the original outro. The Fusion Pro has Pro Controller features for a Pro Controller that's like 70 bucks. The Gambit has Pro Controller features for a controller that's like 120, 130, 140 bucks. But that's the thing, is the only reason I'm even comparing these controllers is because the Fusion Pro is price dropped. If it was still $90, there would have been no comparison, man. Between the software, the faster triggers, the fact that the buttons don't degrade like the paddles on the Fusion do, all just kind of make the Fusion Pro look very silly by comparison when they're in the same tax bracket. I wouldn't worry too much though, because the second PowerA starts thinking, they'll realize a lot more people will buy this when it's a little bit cheaper. They will drop the price again, and it will be recommendable again. Right now, not so much. So links to both of these will be in the description via the Amazon page, their official website, UK links, all that stuff. And before I go, I would like to say real quick, some of you may have noticed I have gotten rid of the members tiers for the channel. I'm working on getting a couple of weeks up to a month ahead of myself in terms of my upload schedule and uploading between 1 and 3 videos a week. I'm currently working on that right now. Until the channel is at a sustainable point where I feel like I've earned the ability to have a members tier thing again, I'll reactivate that. I completely forgot I could just deactivate those until I saw someone else do it. Big stuff coming. I have like a million controllers to review. They're all awesome.